Everyone, welcome back to another video for PSO2 New Genesis. So today's video, what I want to do is, it's kind of a bit of a follow-up to one of my older videos where I looked at the creative space. I realized that I haven't done a creative space video for quite a while, and I thought what I'd do is kind of a beginner's primer to the creative space, just for anyone who might not have dabbled in it yet. I know it's been out for a little while now, but to be honest, the way that the creative space is handled in NGS isn't that great in regards to tutorialization. So what I want to do is just go through some of the basics of the creative space, show you some things that you might not know how to do. I do also have a tips and tricks video that I did quite a few months ago, so feel free to go and check that one out. But this one's going to be starting from the absolute basics and then going from there. So stick around and I'll show you some tips for the creative space. So I suppose the first thing is, for anyone who might not be aware, what exactly is the creative space? So creative space is more or less whatever you want it to be. It is a set area that each player has, and basically it's a canvas for you to do whatever you want with. You can use it as player housing if you want to. You could build pretty much anything you want to in it. It is just a space that is entirely for you to just mess around with, and it's essentially like a sandbox, more or less. There's no enemies or anything here. You don't have to worry about anything else in game. It is purely just an area for you to mess around in and build things. So this is my current creative space. I do have another one as well that I'm going to show off soon, but this is my current one, and it's still quite basic, honestly. There's still a lot of unused space as well. But yeah, it's essentially a place where you can just build whatever you want to. So next thing you might want to know is how do you actually get to the creative space. So if you're in one of the regions in NGS, it's not immediately obvious how you actually get to the creative space. Again, the tutorialization for the creative space is almost non-existent. There is an NPC in each of the towns that will give you some very basic tasks, but they are very, very basic and really don't teach you much at all. So to actually get to the creative space, what you want to do is, if you open your quick menu, there is usually an option for it here, the creative space. If you press on this, and then just go to your creative space, and then just choose the one that you want to go to. So for me, that's this one. And when you do that, you'll teleport to your creative space. Now, when you first warp there, you won't have anything really built in it. All you'll have is, by default, it'll be this alien theme. And you'll have a very small house, which is kind of, if you start from like the width here and go across to here, it's roughly about that big, the house. So you have a very, very basic house with nothing in it, and that's all you have. So you can see there is a very large amount of space for you to work with. This does differ a bit depending on which creative space you go with, because there are different themes you can use. But there is plenty of space for you to use. So the next thing you probably want to know is how would you actually start building, and are there any restrictions, and also how do you unlock more build parts as well. So the way the creative space works is when you load in, you'll have this little teleporter here. This is basically our central node that will take you, first of all, from here you can go back to the ARKS space if you want to. You can also go back to the spawn point of your creative space, and you can go to other creative spaces from here as well. There is also this thing which is called a GP tree. We'll come back to that in a minute. Now, to actually unlock more build parts, you want to use this terminal here. There'll be one of these in a space. If there isn't one there by default, you can also make it, which I'll show you how to do that in a minute. Basically, just interact with this terminal, and there's an option here for buy build parts. Now, there are two options for build parts. The first one is to buy build parts with what are called Genesis points, or GP. And the second option is to buy them with star gems. So if we go into the Genesis points one, there's a few different options. I don't know why they're called storage, but each of these basically has a different list of items you can get. So if I go into storage one, for example, you can see we've got things like triangular floor tiles, we've got walls, we've got roofs. We've also got things like, plants, and essentially anything you want to unlock for the creative spaces here. There is also some interactable objects as well, which I'll go into how some of these work a bit later. But that is how you unlock creative space parts. So you basically buy them through there by using your Genesis points or your star gems. And then once you buy them, you'll get a pop-up menu that asks if you want to bind them to your account, which is much the same way that you bind things like outfits and so on as well. And once you've bound those creative space parts to your account, you can then use them as much as you want. It's not like you have to buy, for example, say if you're putting a doorway in a house, it's not like you have to buy another doorway every time you want to use one. Once you've unlocked the build part for a doorway, you can use as many as you want. So to actually place things, this is where creative space actually starts really. So with creative space, you can see we have a different sub palette, and by default bound to your R1 button on a controller. I'm not sure what the buttons are for keyboard, unfortunately, but for controller it's by default R1. If you press that, you'll go into what's called edit mode. So edit mode is where you can actually interact with your creative space and actually build things, delete things, recolor things, rotate things, and basically anything that you want to do for your creative space you do in edit mode. You can see that as I go over parts that I've placed, they start to glow yellow. This means I've got a part selected. So if I was then going to move a part, it would move the part I've got selected. But first of all, let's go into how to actually place a part. So it's really easy to do. So just to show this as well quickly, if you ever want to exit edit mode, there is a icon for it on your bar here. Just press that and you'll go out of edit mode. So to place a part, if you press R1 again to go into edit mode, and then press it again, you'll open the build menu. Now, a few things to note in the build menu. There are some icons along the top here. If you select one of these, what you can do is if you highlight one of them and then press square, you can add this icon to your build palette. So your build palette is your sub palette at the bottom of the screen. So these are all different tools that you can use. So you've got things such as moving parts, removing parts, changing the color of parts, editing the settings of a part. You can change terrain height, you can level terrain. Any of these you can just press square on and it will add it to your sub palette. There's also an option for flying, which I'll show you in a minute, and the option to exit edit mode as well. So let's try and place a part finally. So let's say we want to place a foundation. All you do is you have this menu here. You can use L1 and R1 to go through the different categories. So we have things like basic structure parts, I guess, that would be used to build buildings and so on. Then you've got more decorative parts. You have things like, you know, bushes and animals. I guess natural parts, I suppose. There's some more furnishings. These are all tools that are used to interact with the creative space. So these help you to set up specific interactions, but it also lets you add things like the initial teleporter. If you accidentally delete it, you can add it again from there, and other things like that. There's also like basic polygons that you can add. And then there's also collaboration items as well, which, as you probably know if you've played for a while, you do tend to get a lot of build parts for different collaborations. There's also a tab for what are called designs as well, but I'll go into them a little bit later. So to actually build a part, once you're in edit mode, press R1 again to bring your build menu up and go to whatever part you want to build. So we'll go with this foundation. Press X on it. Again, if you're using different control layout, just adjust as needed. So it'd be A for Xbox and so on. Select it, and what you'll get is this grid will appear around your character. So this helps you to place the part. You can kind of see that as I move around, the part kind of snaps to the grid. So this helps you to place it more accurately. Now we could just place this if we want to by pressing square, and that will put the part in. If we don't like where it is, we can then press triangle while it's highlighted to delete it. Now another option you can do is, let's say you want to put this block in place, but you want it to be halfway between these two squares on the grid. You can see that as we move, it's only going like one full square at a time. There is a way to change that. So while you're placing the item, if you hold L2, and then while you're holding it, press triangle, you'll open the build options menu, and this gives you a lot more freedom of options with how to place things. So first of all, you can remove the grid if you want to. I don't really know why I'd want that unless it was becoming a bit of a visual distraction, but I tend to use it all the time. So the next option we've got is snap to grid. So this one by default is set to one block. So you can see as we moved it around, it was moving by one block at a time. You can also drop this to half a block and then just press circle to close it. And you can see then when we move it, it does move by half a block at a time. So it allows you to place it a bit more accurately. And this is in all directions as well. So even if you move it up in the air, it will go half block at a time. So the way I'm moving this basically is just by moving my character around, it will move where the positioning is. But you can also use the right stick as well to actually position it as well. So you can see I could put this in the air if I wanted to. Similarly, if we again hold L2 and press triangle and go back to snap to grid, you can also remove snap to grid as well. And then you can move it completely freely. I'll be honest, I tend to use half block snap to grid because I find it quite useful generally. But there might be some situations where you want to position something that isn't aligned exactly to the grid. So that's how you do it. And again, just go back in and change it back if you want to. You can also set it so that parts will interfere or not interfere with other build parts. You can adjust how much things scale by. There's a lot of options in here, so just have a look through them. There is also an option here to make your character translucent. So when you select this, it will do as it says. It makes your character translucent. This is quite useful, particularly if you're working in quite a cramped area and trying to place parts, because quite often your character will kind of get in the way and you won't be able to see things very well. So you can see by making your character translucent, it makes things a lot easier to work out. A lot of the time, I don't need to use it, but it is quite useful for if you want to work in quite a cramped area. So that is the build options menu. So that is how you place a part. So once you've placed a part, you can actually interact with it. So once you've placed a part, what you want to do is go to your menu. Again, add this to your sub palette if you haven't already. And just press on move. So what you'll get as well, you might have noticed by now, is that at the top right there is like a context menu, and that context menu will change depending on what you're doing in the creative space. So you see at the moment it's showing me all the options for move. So again, if I highlight this and press square, I can freely move this part that I've already placed. So I'll move it to there. Alternatively, you can do things like if you hold L2, you get this edit build part menu at the bottom, and this allows you to do a few other things. So you can move it through here. You can also remove the part if you want to from there. And I'm just scrolling through this with the D-pad. So you can also change the color there if you want to. So if you want to change the color, for example, you just highlight change color on this palette at the bottom and then just release L2. And then what we can do is we can go, you press square to select the color. And I want this to be red. And you can see we've got a second color, and we'll make the second color green just so you can see it work. So you can see that has changed the color there. What that also does as well is it then keeps that color in mind. So then if you build other parts, you can then just quick apply that color. So let's get rid of this a minute. So again, we go back to the move menu, and then what we can do is we'll go to remove actually, and we can get rid of it for now. So what we'll do is we'll place another part, but we'll rotate this one. So for this one, again, press R1 to bring up our build menu, and we'll go to this again. So again, we're in the position where we're about to place something. Now with this, what we want to do is we want to rotate this one. So to rotate it, what you do is before you've actually placed it, line it up roughly where you want to. It doesn't really matter too much though. Then what you want to do is hold L2, and you'll get some different options. So you'll get rotation and scale. There's also max placement distance as well. I'm not entirely sure what max placement distance does. I've never used it, honestly. I think it might prevent things from being placed too close to it, but I'm not 100% sure on that. So first of all, let's rotate it. So while we're hovering over rotation, again, we're just using the D-pad to highlight this. You then have a few options. So at the minute, I'm still holding L2 to keep this menu open. So if we do up or down on the D-pad, it will adjust the rotation axis. So you can see at the minute, it's sort of left to right rotation. If I press up on the D-pad, it changes to like a vertical rotation. And again, or left and right rotation. So let's say I want to rotate this so it's like a diamond with like the point pointing towards me. If I highlight this rotation here, then all you need to do is, while you've got this highlighted and while you're holding L2, just press either up or down on the left analog stick. And you can see it'll just rotate around. So we position it like that. Then what we can do is we can release L2 and then place this where we want to. So we'll place it there. And you can see that has placed a rotated block instead. Again, we'll just get rid of that. Next thing you can do is maybe you want to change the size of this. So again, hold L2 to get the menu open and go to scale. Scale works very similar to rotation in that you basically use the up and down D-pad to select which axis you want to scale it on. and then the left analog stick to actually scale it. So you can see there at the moment it's selecting all the axes. So if we do the left analog stick while that's selected, it'll scale everything. And you can see there is quite a lot of freedom on how much you can scale things by. Alternatively, if I press up on the D-pad, it changes to just one-way scaling, so then I could make it just longer one way. And again, this is just by doing up and down on the left analog stick. Press up again, and that will only adjust the height. So you do have quite a lot of options with this, or we can adjust it that way as well. So you do have quite a lot of freedom with how you want to customize things. And this can be done for most build parts. There are a few build parts that you can't scale, or I think you can rotate pretty much everything, but there is some build parts that you can't scale, but the majority of them you can. So that is very basic how to build. So we can now use what we've learned to try and make a really basic house structure. So to do that, first of all, we'll start with the foundations. So we're going to edit mode, place our foundations. Again, we'll just line it up on the grid. And what you'll notice is as you work in creative space more, the more complicated the structures get, it can get a little bit finicky sometimes to actually place things. All I would say to that is just keep trying to adjust your camera to make sure you're placing things right. So you can see there we've actually misplaced that block. You can see it's slightly offset. So all I would do for that one is just highlight it and press triangle to remove it. We could also move it as well, but honestly I think it's just faster to remove it and place a new one. So there's our basic foundations. So now we've got foundations, next thing we need to do is add a floor. So again, we select the floor tile. Now what you'll notice with this is when you go to place something, if it's on the same level, the edge of what you're trying to place will kind of light up a much lighter blue. So this is telling me at the moment that it's aligned properly. You can see it stays with that blue line on the build part I'm placing. And this is basically showing me that I'm placing it on the same level as these foundation tiles. So I know it's right. You can see that disappears when we move it up. So next thing I want to show is, for this next one we want to place here, it's a little bit finicky to place that there. We could do it, but it's a little bit awkward. So there is a way we can actually control our character a bit better in the creative space, which is to use the fly function. So again, you need to add this to your build palette. But once you add it, if you just press the left stick on it, what it'll do is it'll make your character actually float. While you're in this state, you can press R2 to accelerate. You can then also, if you hold X and then press forward, you'll go up. And if you hold X and press down, hold back, you'll go down. So it's quite easy to get used to, but it allows you to position your character a lot easier to place things. So next up we need to put a door in and then add the walls. So first we'll go to the door. And we'll add this one. So I want the door to go here. Obviously it's not lined up properly, so we need to rotate the door tile. So again, just hold L2, select rotation, select the axis you want to rotate it in, which is the one we've got currently, and then use the left analog stick to rotate it. And once it's rotated, again, it's just a question of just moving around until it snaps. So you can see we've got the door on there now. I think that might actually be the wrong way around. Yeah, I think that this is the outside actually, so that's actually the wrong way around. So again, we can just remove that. We can then rotate this around again and replace it. Yes, that's right. Next, we'll add some walls. We'll add one there. We'll rotate the block around. It's just a question of like moving your character very slowly just to get it to snap properly. You do tend to find that it is quite good at snapping to the right places generally. So we'll put one in there, and we'll add one there as well. And then we'll put a couple of windows in. So again, back to the build part, select some windows. And again, just position it in. So you get the picture anyway. Then you would obviously just add a roof to this as well. So that will build you a really, really basic house. So very, very simple to get started with a creative space. Obviously to do more complicated things is a bit more difficult, but to actually build a very, very basic structure is really, really simple. So now let's talk about designs. So designs are a feature in the creative space that allow you to basically take an accumulation of build parts and combine them into one specific structure that you can then reuse. So say I wanted to reuse this house shell. I know there's no roof on it, but just ignore that. What you need to do is you need to put what's called a design terminal down. So again, go into edit mode and you want to go to this design terminal. Now you do have a placement limit on these of 10. So you can only put 10 designs in your creative space. So just bear that in mind. Now when you place it, you basically want to line it up so that it's kind of in front of your design. So if I place it there, it might be okay. I think that's right. Once you've placed it, all you need to do is come out of edit mode and access the terminal and select set design area. Now what this does, it might be hard to see, but there's like a purple cube inside the house now. That is your design area. So any parts that are within that area will be treated in the design. So we have this menu now. Start point basically moves where this cube starts. So you can see that as I move it to the front of the house, all of the front faces on the house get selected. So if I put that there, I can then also adjust the width of the box as well. So I can adjust it this way. I can adjust it this way. But you can see we're not getting the back of the house at the minute. So if I was to make this a design, it would only take half the house. We can adjust the height if we want to. And we can adjust the depth. So we adjust the depth just so we get everything in. So that should be fine. So you can see now that the entire house structure is flashing yellow. Now there is a limit on design. So you do have, as you might be able to see, there is a maximum of 600 parts that you're allowed in a single design. That is quite hard to reach, honestly. I mean, this entire house thing is 30, so that gives you an idea. Once you've got it all set, all you do is just hold circle to close the area settings. And then you can edit the design information. And this allows you to put a name for the design. So, for example, house shell. You can also tag the design if you want to. And put a comment in. And once you've done that, you just hit save. And choose a slot to actually assign it to. So I'll assign it to slot 11. And you see it says design saved. So now if I go elsewhere in my creative space, like over here for example, if I go into edit mode now and bring up the build menu and go to the last tab, this is all the designs. And you can see we've got house shell here. If I select it, it instantly replicates that design. So you don't have to individually build all the houses if you're building things that are identical. So if I just place that, for example, there, you can see it just instantly puts it in. If I come out of the edit mode, you can see we now have another replica of that house. Very simple. So next thing I want to cover is some interactable objects, because this is where creative space gets quite fun. So again, if you go into your build menu, you have these tabs here, and these are all different interactable objects. Now, some of these are pretty self-explanatory, but I'll go into what some of these do. First of all, we have the GP tree, which is this tree here. The GP tree basically is one of the ways that you get Genesis points. So every day when you go to your creative space, if you interact with your GP tree, you'll get some Genesis points. You can also go to other players' creative spaces and get Genesis points that way as well. Now, you can only put one of these in your creative space, so just be aware of that. Next up, let's cover some things like collision detection areas and action detection areas. So this creative space actually has both of them set up, so I can show you them straight away. So if I go over here, you can see that we're in edit mode at the moment. And you can see there's this weird cube here. And there's another one at the top. Now these are slightly different objects. This one here is a collision detection area. And this one at the top is an action detection area. So if I come out of edit mode, those will disappear. Now what these do is if I go to the top of here and open the door, there is a laser fence that blocks the door. And you can see it is solid, I can't get through it. But there's a switch in there that I can't get to. I have this set so there is an action detection area here. So again, if I go into edit mode, you can see we've got this action detection area that we're standing in. These, by the way, I just placed the same way as other build parts, so you just choose exactly where you want them. And you can scale them. So again, if I come out of edit mode, so this action detection area that we're standing in that you can't see when you're not in edit mode is set up so that if I do an attack, the laser fence will open. So if I do a punch, the laser fence will drop and I can walk in. Now next, we have this switch set up. So this switch here is set up so that if you look at this building here, there's a door here that you might be able to see, and that's closed at the moment. That door is set to open when you interact with this switch here. So if I press the switch, you see that door is now open. Now the way that this works is if you go into edit mode and go to settings and then select settings, this will show you all the options for this switch. So bear with me because this is a little bit confusing at first glance. So this switch has a lot of different options that we can use with it. First one is whether you want to display the build part. If you hide it, it will make the switch invisible. So if you want a hidden switch somewhere, you can do that. Next one is, do you want the switch to have collision detection? So at the moment, if I walk into the switch, you can see I get kind of stopped by it. If I turn collision detection off, I can walk straight through it. Next one is build part access function. This appears on a lot of things. So the access function is when I walk up to the switch and press circle, I can press the switch. If I disable that, I won't be able to actually press the switch. And then this one is send or receive connects. So NGS's creative space has a thing called connect IDs. And what connect IDs are, they are basically like event flags. So when you do something with one part, you can get that part to send what's called a connect ID, which is a number. And then you can have another part that will respond to that connect ID if it receives a certain connect ID number. So I have this set basically so that if I close that switch, you can see that door is now closed again. If I then move over here, if I then access the settings of this door, you can see we have a similar menu. And you see we have build part access function disabled, which is why you can't open and close the door from here. Now, if I scroll down through these options here, you can see we have an option at the bottom for open and close. And these are set so that this door will open when it receives Connect ID 18 and it will close when it receives Connect ID 19. So then, to make sense of this, if we go back up here and go to the switch and check the settings on the switch, what you can see is, so this will send a connect and it will send Connect ID 18 when this switch is turned on, and it will send Connect ID 19 when it's turned off. So what will happen is when I press the switch, you can see at the moment the door is closed. If I press this switch, it will send Connect ID 18. The door is set up so that it is basically listening for Connect ID 18 and 19. So when it detects that I have done Connect ID 18, the door is set so that the door will open when it receives that. So practically what that means is that when you press the switch, the door will open. And likewise, when we press the switch again, that will send Connect ID 19, which closes the door. It is a little confusing at first to get used to, but you do get used to it eventually. And with Connect IDs, you can do a ton of different things. It's not just for switches, it uses it for several different things. So next thing is the collision detection area. So we covered action detection, which is this. This was the thing that made the laser fence close. Now I want to put that laser fence back up. So the way I've got that set is if I walk down through here and I walk through this collision detection area at the bottom, which is this one. If I then go back up, you can see the laser fence is back there again. So that is how collision detection works. Again, the way these work is if you highlight them and go into settings, you can see that for this, basically I've got a Connect ID set up so that when I make contact with the collision detection area, it will send Connect ID 6. So that is a brief thing about how Connect IDs work. If you want me to go into more detail on that, or if you're confused on anything with it, just leave a comment below and I will try and answer where I can. Because I do realise the Connect ID system is a little bit confusing for new players at first. So as I walk around this creator space, one thing you might have noticed is that we actually have other characters in here. So you can see we've got these like NPC characters that are based on my other characters. So there's one there, for example. There's another one there. You might be wondering how to do those. So there is a way to put your own characters in creator space as well as NPCs. The way you do that, again, just go into your edit menu and go to Interactables tab. And there's an option here called ARKS Decoy. Now again, there is a placement limit of 20 on these, so you won't be able to have them all over the place, but you can have up to 20. You can't scale them either as well, so don't think you can have like a giant version of your character because it won't let you, unfortunately. So again, just place it like any other build part. But for now, let's just place one. Again, you just place it like any other thing, so just place that there. And what you'll see is if we come out of edit mode, we have, oh wait, it's a blank one. So by default, it will just place a blank decoy. Now, if you're wondering which way it faces, because it does tend to, looks like it tends to face you all the time, the way to tell is there is a little terminal on the ring in front of it. I believe that is the front, from what I remember. Now, the way you actually get it to look like a character is if you're out of edit mode, if you press circle on it and access it, it'll attempt to access it. You probably see there that like a little text bubble's popped up with nothing in it. That's because we haven't set anything yet. So again, go back into edit mode, highlight it, and go on settings. This again allows you to do things like connect IDs. So you can actually use this to make these react to certain things. So I'll try and show you that actually. So first of all, I'll show you how to add your own character, and then I'll show you how to get these to react to things. So when you're in edit mode, you'll probably see if you're outside of edit mode, the circle is access, which just is like interacting with it basically. If you're in edit mode, it changes to edit. So if you press on it, you have a few options. So first is name settings. This will be the name of the character. So let's make a copy of this character that we've got here. So this is Taker. And then a message. You can set a brief message here as well. So I'll just say hello. You then have balloon settings. So you're probably familiar with it where you can basically have different types of chat balloons depending on what you want. Then there's manga expression options. These basically let you add little, almost like emojis to the text. So for example, let's add a heart. It will add little prefixes to your message. Now bear in mind that the message settings are actually really short, so you can't have a very long message at all with these. And I believe that the expressions actually eat into the characters as well. Once you've got it all set, all you do is hit close, apply what you've entered, and it will mimic whatever your current character is. It won't mimic their weapon or anything, but you see it is a perfect copy of this character. Now they will automatically look at you when you go near them, and now you can see that if we come out of edit mode and then access, which now says hello, and there's little hearts there. So that's how the decoys work. Now, let's say we want her to say hello if we interact with another NPC. So we have this other NPC character over here, who again we can talk to. So what I want this to do is if I go into edit mode and we go into the settings for her, what I want her to do is when I access her, which is when I interact with her, I want to send a connect ID. Make sure you hit the tick box. And just so it's not interacting with anything else, let's put it at, for example, connect 120, just as an example. So that means that when I interact with her, she will send connect ID 120. Now, if I go over to this character, and again, go into the settings, if I go down to the bottom, there's an option for show messages. So again, the way this is split up is you've basically got send options and receive options. So I want it though, so that when the other NPC sends connect ID 120, I want this character to speak. This is a sort of weird example, but it's just to show you how it works. So I want to show messages when she receives the connect ID, and I want her to do it when she receives connect ID 120. So now if I come out of edit mode, what should happen if I've set it up right is, when I speak to this character, the character over there should talk. And you can see there, we've got both of them talking at the same time. Just show that again. So what's happening here is, this character here, when I'm accessing her, is sending connect ID 120. This character over here is set up so that if connect ID 120 is sent, she will speak. Just to show you, it doesn't work the other way around. So if I access this character, the other character won't speak. And that's because, one, she's not sending any connect IDs, and two, this one isn't receiving any connect IDs. It only works the other way. However, it is easy to set that up. So again, if I go into edit mode and do the settings, I could have her, for example, send connect ID 121. And then if we go into, let's make it more interesting. So let's go over to this character here. Let's edit her so that she will speak when she gets 121. Actually, she's already set up actually, so let's find another NPC. I think there's another one in here. Yeah, there is. So if I access this one, yeah, she's not set up. So if I set her, so she will respond with connect ID 121. Come out of edit mode. So you can see she speaks normally, no others react. But then, again, if I access this NPC, the one over there should speak. And then if I access this one, the one inside the house should speak. And you can see her text pops up over there. So you can do these like little chain effects, so it's quite interesting what you can do with the connect IDs. There's a lot of options you can do, and I'm not going to go into everything in this video because it'd be here forever. So that just gives you a brief idea of how the connect ID system works, and also how to use ARKS Decoys. So just a few more things just to wrap this very basic guide up. I will go into some more detailed stuff in some other videos, but this is just for basic things. Next thing is, maybe you don't want to be in Alio. Maybe you want to be somewhere else. There is a way to change region. So again, if you go to the terminal here, the C space menu, there is an option here for change or unlock theme. So you can see currently, time of recording, there are 4 different themes. There is Alio, Retem, Caveris, and then a Far Eastern theme. There isn't one for Steam, unfortunately. These all cost build parts Genesis points to unlock, apart from Alio, which is unlocked by default. So you can, for example, you can spend 40,000 points to unlock this. And that's now unlocked. And if I want to change the theme, I would just select one of these. Now, a big warning, if you change your theme, it will delete everything in your creative space. The reason for that is because the terrain is different on each of the different themes. So what you've got built in one creative space might not necessarily be possible in another one. Example of that would be, in Alio, you can actually dig quite far underground, which I'll actually show in a minute. Whereas in Retem, you can't really dig very far. So if you've put a lot of things underground quite far in Alio, that wouldn't work in the Retem creator space. So ideally, what you want to do is decide on what region you want the creator space to be in first before you start building anything. Because if I was to relocate this space now, I would have to delete everything. Now, yes, you can use designs to try and, you know, put things in design so you can rebuild them quicker. But there is a limit on the size of things you can put into a design. For example, this jet here is too big to fit in a design. So I would have to either put into several designs and then meld it together, or rebuild the whole thing. So that is how you change theme. You can also, from this, change the music. So you can play whatever music you want to. Basically, any music disc you've got unlocked, you can play. You can also change the time in the creative space. And you can also tell it to advance time if you want to. So that will cycle through day and night, or you can have it where it will just sit at the same time. I tend to have it in the middle of the day when I'm building because it's just better light conditions for doing it. You can also edit the privacy settings. So you can have it open to everyone, friends only, alliance only, and so on. There is also a way there near the bottom where you can actually adjust other players' edit permissions. So if you've got a big project that you're working on and one of your friends wants to help out with it, you can give them edit permissions for your creative space that allows them to add things and delete things. Obviously, just bear in mind that you trust them before you use it, because the last thing you want is someone to go and delete all of your creative space. So since I touched on it briefly, there is a way in creative space of editing the actual terrain as well. To do that, if you go into edit mode, again, you'll have to add these to your palette, but there is change terrain height and level terrain. So change terrain height, if you select it, you'll get a little target. You can then hold L2 and do up and down on the D-pad to adjust how much of the region you want to change. Unfortunately, this is the most you can do in one go. I really wish there was an option to adjust more of the terrain in one go, because it can take forever to get what you want. But if I just position this roughly where I want to and press square, I can increase the terrain height, so you can see there's like a little hill there now. And again, if I do it here, and you can keep doing this as much as you want, so you know, you can adjust it quite a lot. Similarly, if you go over it and then hit triangle, you can decrease the terrain height and that'll bring it down. Or if you just want to level the whole thing off, you can hit level terrain, and that will actually completely flatten the top of it, because sometimes you'll get it where it'll be quite uneven on top. If I wanted to bring this down quickly, one way you can do it is go to ground level, overlap the cursor a little bit, and then hit level terrain. And that will basically take big chunks out of the terrain that you've raised or lowered. And it's just a very fast way of getting the terrain back down to normal level. So you can see there, now it's back down to flat again. So very useful for building things like hills. And also good for digging holes into the ground as well, to let you do underground stuff, because you can build underground. So I think one of the last things I want to cover in this video is just teleporters. So teleporters, again, you build them from this tab here. Now it says there's no real limit on them, but there kind of is. So again, you just place it as normal. And let's say I want a teleporter that goes from there over to here, because I'm lazy. So what you can do then is, once you place them, go into settings. And you see, if I try teleporting at the minute, it just takes me to a random teleporter. And if you wonder how I walk through the wall there, that's because that wall has no collision detection on it, because I've made it so it doesn't have any collision detection. So by default, it will just warp you to random teleporter. If you go into the settings though, you can see here we've got a thing called link teleport number. So oddly, these teleporters don't actually seem to use connect IDs. You can still have them to send connects, but they have an option here for link teleport number. So if I go, for example, to teleporter number 10 and set that as 10, basically all you have to do then is just set the other teleporter to the same. So if I set that to 10, if I then go in this teleporter, it should teleport me over to the other one. So you can see we're now over here. And again, if I go back in here, it should teleport me back to that one. So that is how you set teleporters up. It is super easy to do. So that is a very simple overview to the basics of Creative Space. If you do have any more questions about how to use it, please let me know in the comments and I will go into things where I can. I'm still learning in the Creative Space as well, because you can make things very, very complicated if you want to. But yeah, if you've got any questions or anything, do feel free to leave them in the comments. I will really try and answer them where I can. Just to give you an idea of what you can actually do in Creative Space. So this Creative Space is kind of my first one where I was experimenting. So if I come out of here, just to quickly show you this. In here, I have a fake wall here, which is set up by disabling collision detection. This leads to 2 different teleporters. I have a trap teleporter that takes you here. You have to sort of use the switch to get yourself out. And I also have this teleporter, which leads you underground. So you can see we are totally underground now. I then have a switch set up here. And you can see there's a laser fence at the end. So this is set up basically so that the laser fence will deactivate when I walk through here. So again, if I go into edit mode, you can see we've got a motion, a collision detection zone basically. So by walking through this, it gets rid of the laser fence so I can walk through. I've then got 2 more teleporters. One of them takes you to a trap area that you have to just teleport out of. And the other one takes you to like a little hidden base. We've got some more NPCs here. And we have another teleporter to get out there. Now, this switch, I can then press it to re-enable the laser fence and then walk back out. So that is the first part of the space I've got. There is then, as I showed earlier, there is a way to open that door over there. So if by running up these stairs and doing an action in front of this and pressing the switch, I can open the door. And then by going through this collision detection zone again, it will close the doors up there. This opens this switch here. I can then press this interior switch. That will close that door. This door is also set up so I can open it, but then it's basically set up so halfway down this corridor there's another collision detection zone. What this will do is when I pass through the collision detection zone, it will close this door behind me. So again, if I just walk down the corridor, you can see it closes the door when I get so far. Next, if I look out here, there is a pathway to the jet. Now I can actually set that so it's not active. If I want to go to the jet, I can press this switch, and what it'll do is it'll activate the pathway and open the door for me. And get inside the jet, and then when I press this switch, it disables the pathway and closes the door on the other side. So that's an example of some of the things you can do in Creative Space with the Connect ID systems. So it is fun to just mess around with it and see what you can do. This is still overall pretty basic, honestly. I do have another Creative Space that I'm working on at the minute that's much more complicated, which I'm going to show off in a video or maybe next week. But yeah, we'll end that one there for today. If you have any more questions about Creative Space, please feel free to leave them below and I will answer wherever I can. Also, if you want to give any more feedback about Creative Space, again, drop them in the comments because I'm always happy to see other people's tips for the Creative Space as well. Yeah, hope you enjoyed the video. If you have, please consider liking and subscribing, join as a member if you want to. I have a Twitch as well at Section Skyline. I have an X and a Blue Sky, which are both Section Skyline, and I also have a Discord channel you can join as well, which there should be a link to in the description. And I normally stream on Wednesdays and Sundays, so hopefully see some of you there. Yeah, for the meantime, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.